Welcome into PrepAquatics.com. I'm Skylar King. As always, you can email me, Skylar@PrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter @SkylarPrep. Here to talk about a couple weekday meets that happened since the last meet. And first, we're actually going to jump backwards a week because I'm assuming I owe a thank you to Coach Glenn Brown or someone with Rosary for updating the Meet Mobile on their duel with Oswego. So I was quite excited to see that because there's some really nice swims in here and swims that are obviously going to make a big impact at the state level come the end of the year. So we'll jump right in there and we'll talk about a couple other meets and then we'll talk about what's going on this weekend. Right off the bat, again, medley 150, no rents for Rosary. They got a fly split that obviously is going to be much faster at the end of the year. 27.9 for Rosary. Rents went out in 25.4 in the open fly, or she went 55.1. So let's give her 25.0. It's basically a 3-second drop for Rents for that medley. We're looking at 47 mid, which is a very nice time, especially for September. Rosary's going to be in that mix to potentially win the medley. I think it's kind of open. Utria is certainly back in that mix as well. I think I would still say that Rosary's the favorite because they do have that front three kind of locked down from last year, but New Trier is definitely in the picture now with the freshman, the transfer, everything else. New Trier, Rosary, and then Hinsdale Central would be that third team. I think you would have to say with Schneider, Kramer, and the like, duking it out to win the medley this year. In the 200 free, Katie Gressick, 154.3. Very nice swim for Oswego. Oswego, not going to be quite as good as last year because, one, they don't have as many individual points, but they also don't have as strong a relays. The free relays are still going to play, I think, at the state meet, at least for bottom sixes, the way they look coming out of this meet. But I can't see them making top six without some big time step up swims from their third and fourth girls. Chloe Diner, 206.5 in the IM. I would expect her to be, again, in thick contention for a top six finish there. She beats Naraki by 6 seconds. Naraki, I think, is going to have to swim that IM and try to get some points for Rosary to make a run at a trophy, because I think we are yet to see if she can potentially present value to the free relays. We know what she can do in the breaststroke, but she's going to need that second individual. And again, is Rosary going to have to bag a relay? When I did my predictions, I had them doing so with Ren swimming the 50, which she also did in this meet. 23.9 for her, which isn't even that good for her. I mean, she's definitely somebody who I can see going 22 at the end of the year. She's one of a handful of girls that could definitely win the 50 free. And obviously Kit Schneider is the number one returner, and not just in terms of the fact that she won state, but even if you look at the times that everybody went over the spring post girls season, she's still got the fastest time in the state. In the fly, as I mentioned, Rents 55.1, Gressick 57.6. That's a heck of a time, and that's certainly a time that is going to put her in range for a scoring swim at the end of the year. But Rents should really dominate Chicago in the butterfly all year, and it really just comes down to what's going to happen at the end with. Is the lineup in the butterfly going to change? Is Park going to swim it? I shouldn't say that she's going to dominate Chicago. She's going to dominate pretty much every invite she goes to because Deerfield doesn't go to these invites. But Park obviously is out there. She's a state record holder. But as we talked previously, she's also got free reign to swim whatever she wants and potentially win other events. Whether or not she can get state records in other events, that's another question. But certainly, there's something to be said for putting a legacy together of, I won a bunch of different events in the state during my career, to show your how diverse you are in the events you're elite at. But if Rents swims the fly, which again she's going to be in the top 3 at worst, and I would probably say, if you made me bet, she's going to be second, because we know she's going to be at her best, where not everyone else that's competing with her for second behind Park, if Park swims it, is necessarily going to be at their best, as we saw last year. 100 free, again, I think Oswego, this is where they're looking for, and Rosary as well. Olivia Moore, 53.9, that's a very nice swim, and they're both going to be looking for girls to step up and fill in those relay spots around their returning stars. And Olivia Moore obviously has thrown her name in the ring as someone that is probably a favorite off of this 53.9 to be on both free relays at the end of the year, depending on how things play out the rest of the season. But again, not everyone is a new trier, where you're going to have tons of girls going 24 mid to 25 mid and 53 mid to 54 mid, and it's just about who's going to be the most likely to pop on a relay. 200 free relay, again, obviously they weren't swimming their state lineup, I guess you would say, but Oswego does beat Rosary. Renz leads off in 23.8, which again, when she went to 23.9, I said what wasn't even that great. We know she's capable of more. Oswego 38.8, and this is what I mean. In spite of what they lost to graduation, this is with a 26.0 on their 200 relay. Gressick anchors in 23, Diner leads off in 24.3, and Madeline Liska 24.4. If they can replace this 26.0 with something more in the 24 or low 25 range, this relay should be a lock for top 6 in this year, in what should be a weaker year. Rosary has got to decide which free relay is the one Rents is going to be on, if they're going to transition her to 2 individuals, which personally I would, if it was me, because she's that good that she warrants a second individual swim, because you never know when you have a bigger group. The more kids that are involved, the more room for error there is. When you just have your superstar involved, you know what you're going to get. And so while the medley, because we saw what they did last year, we know that medley's elite, the free relays are a bigger question. They loaded up on the relays last year, and you would probably argue they had better sprint freestyle talent last year, and it's not like they were in the top 6 across the board. So now that they lost some of that sprint free talent to graduation, you've got to consider potentially not going for one of these relays and giving Rents that opportunity for a second event. Lauren O'Connor 59.9 in the back. Nothing special for her, but again, she kind of lied in the weeds for most of the year last year and really had a great taper season. So she's somebody that I still expect to be in that scoring mix at the end of the year. And again, O'Connor, Naraki, Rents, I'm not going to worry about them as the season goes along, because they all proved it last year. In the breaststroke, Diner 104.9, Naraki 105.2, Olivia Moore 107.4. That's a pretty quick top three in the breaststroke for a dual meet at the end of August. And Chloe Diner, again, the breaststroke looks like maybe the toughest in terms of the depth and what it's going to take to get sixth place individual event in the meet. And then 400 relay, as we go 338.6, Rosary 441.9. And again, as we go, Gressick and Diner, the splits got all messed up here, so we don't even have as we go splits. 51.5 lead off for Rents, and that's why I said she's probably gonna swim the fly, but she'd be top 6 in the 100 free if she swims it. She could, and ultimately, they've just got to decide if Park's going to be in the fly, maybe the 100's more winnable for Rents, and that's the beauty of having a swimmer with this type of versatility is you can make those kind of moves. And again, no O'Connor on this relay for Rosary, which I think you would probably expect her to be on any free relay that they go for. And so that's going to be kind of the back and forth experiment for the beads throughout the season is what do the relays look like if you load it up and put Rents all three, and which of the free relays looks best without Rents. And again, it's not always easy because you don't always know what the other teams are going to go for. You can do your best to scout things out, to see through it in these invites throughout the season what relays these teams are going to go for, but ultimately you're not going to know until you see those sectional results where these guys end up in the lineup. And obviously opposing coaches, unless you're exceptionally close for some reason, you used to work together, they probably don't want to tell you what their lineup's going to look like. And so it's a tough game to play. I saw it play out in my old household when my father was a head coach, and again, it's just something that can decide trophies if it's close. If you pick a free relay and that's the one everyone goes after, and then everyone else went half medley, half other free relay, so that other free relay is the weak one, and you get 7th and you could have been 4th. That's the type of thing that happens all the time, frankly, to a lot of these teams, because there's only a handful of teams every year that can go out and load 3 relays, and it's generally your New Triers and your Hinsdales and these teams with large turnouts of girls or boys, for that matter, that are able to develop a lot of depth. And obviously, like Stevenson now on the boys' side has that same luxury. Another meet I was looking at, Hinsdale Naperville Central. This was on Tuesday, and again, Schneider, she issued with a fly in the medley, 25.5. I still think that the medley is going to have to be Bocus in the fly with Schneider in the back. Schneider's going to be their fastest girl in every leg but the breaststroke. And so I think they've got to get something out of the sprint leg from whoever, and then leading it off with Schneider and Kramer should put you amongst, if not as the leader in the meet at the 100-yard mark. Again, teams like Rosary should be up there. New Trier's going to be up there again. But then giving open water to your back half is, a valuable thing. And you see it on the college level all the time with the free relays where they put their best kids second. Same type of thing when you're making these medley decisions. To me, if it's close between Schneider in the fly and Schneider in the back, I put her in the back 10 times out of 10, because that backstroker that's not her is going to get eaten up potentially in the wake of other swimmers, when your flyer is going to dive in with open water in front of them. Sophia Hayes, 157.4. Again, Hayes is someone that is definitely a potential scorer for Naperville Central. Kramer, 211.3, wins the IM. Again, this was a pretty decent meet. Hinsdale Central looks like they pretty much in command the whole way. Schneider, 23.99. Eden Goach, again, who I have scoring 24.88 in the open 50. And as I mentioned before, the big ace in the hole that Hinsdale appears to have, actually looking better than even I thought, is the way their divers have looked. Megan Martell and Cece Hubert have both broken 200 in every result that I've seen so far. That's big. You still can't count on it as points unless you're really like top of the heap in diving. But divers are like lottery tickets in a lot of ways, because someone could be on when someone else is off at state, and you never know how those judges are going to react. We had the best diver in the state all year, my senior year, and he didn't even score. Things that extreme rarely happen, but if it can happen to someone that was a state champion caliber diver, it can happen to someone that should get 8th and they get 13th, and you sneak somebody in. And so in a year where it should be very tight for even the state championship now, with the developments in St. Ignatius, any extra potential points are going to help. Bocus 005 wins the fly. Bocus, super versatile, jack of all trades, but ultimately IM 500 is where she's going to end up and where they need her to come up big. Sophia Hayes, 54.4, wins the 100. Olivia Saliga, 54.5. Saliga is someone that's going to be counted on this year to step into relay rules at the state meet, more likely than not, and with some of the girls they lost to graduation. Schneider, 5.10.9. I really admire this swim from Schneider, because she wins by 11 seconds. And we know she's a sprint freestyler and stroker, but she obviously, went out there to try to put a good swim on the board, because a lot of kids that say, man, it's a bummer I'm swimming the 500 free, go out there and just make sure they touch out the swimmer from the other team. And Schneider obviously went out to try to post a decent time. 200 relay, Naperville Central 140.88 wins it. Hinsdale Central 141.57. Schneider not on this relay, but Saliga again 24.2. That's their top split. And again, this is a young swimmer that's clearly come into her own since last season, and it should really help out the Red Devils come the end of the year. But Naperville Central, Lauren Collins, 24.5 at the end. Hayes led off. Regan Fox splits 24. Again, I always say that Mike Adams is one of my guys when it comes to coaches. He's obviously been a boys coach for much longer, but if he's got similar tools to a lot of teams around the state, I like my chances with him maximizing what he has and taking advantage. Eden Goach 002 wins the back for Naperville Central, and then Kramer 106.8. We saw her in the big showdown at the Kendall Pickering meet, and similar to what we were talking about with Diner, Kramer is going to be in that breaststroke mix. And then 338.2 for Hinsdale. Soliga leads it off 55.0. Schneider 52.3. Bocus, Kramer out of the breaststroke. That's obviously not ideal, and it's not necessarily what their lineup's going to be at the end of the year. but you would guess that you probably don't want to have to bring Kramer out of the breaststroke to swim the 400 relay, especially at the end of a 2-day weekend at the state meet when, who knows, the state championship might be on the line. So, but again, Hinsdale, Napier Hills Central, Rosary, Oswego, all putting up decent times here early in the season. And I also saw Ignatius Loyola results. Ignatius, again, not that they necessarily put in their best lineup when it comes to their relays especially, but they definitely don't look overwhelming, minus Piperwood Prince. They beat Loyola by plenty, but you can tell there's a void in the lineup, relays and otherwise, without Piperwood Prince, and it's going to be a storyline throughout the season. If they don't pull it off, and unless they get beat by 50 at the state meet, it's very likely that Piperwood Prince could have turned it around for him if we're talking about 40 points or less, because of how many she could have scored individually in the mid to upper 20s, plus what she would have meant to their relays, especially those free relays where they were the #1 returners with everybody back with her. This weekend, I'll be at the Lyons Township meet. There's really not very many invitationals going on, and so I honestly tried to find a different one. No slight to LT. I like going to watch meets there, but I just am not a huge fan of relay meets. And so, but there's just not that much out there. Most teams are swimming dual meets this weekend or other kind of wacky invitationals. New Trier goes to Downers South for a pentathlon. So one more week. The last couple weekends in September, things really start to dial up, especially that 2 weeks from now, you get the Lake County meet, you get that Rosary meet, and things are really in full swing. Then we're in October, and Trevor Relays is just around the corner, and we'll really get to see the top talent in the state duking it out. As always, you can email me, SkylerPrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter, @SkylerPrep. We'll be back next week talking about a full weekend of invitational results right here at PrepAquatics.com.